and welcome to Cuppa with a Doula. I'm your host, Alicia. I'm an exercise physiologist. I am a doula. I am a mum to two girls, and I am doing this podcast to help mums and parents out there to feel like they're not alone, to spread awareness of things that happen when birthing. I create a platform for women to safely share their birthing and their parenting story, regardless of where they birth, whether it's a hospital birth, whether it's a planned C-section, whether it's birthing in a birth center or birthing at home with or without a midwife. It's all on Cuppa with a Doula. And every month I interview a professional in the field of pregnancy and birth. So far, I've had a student midwife, a birth photographer, a clinical nutritionist, a women's health physiotherapist, and Catherine Bell from the Birth Map. And all these experts come and share their knowledge on the podcast in the aim of raising awareness to important things related to pregnancy, birth, and parenting. So thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, please consider leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because it really helps me to reach more people and to help more parents and more mums out there. So please consider leaving a review or even sharing it, spread the word out there, Cuppa with a Doula. If you want to come on the podcast, there is a form in the show notes that you can use to get in touch with me, and then I will get back to you and we can record an episode together. Let's dive right in. Today's episode is a very special one because of the day that it's released on. So Cobi and I recorded this episode quite a while ago, and with birthing my youngest daughter and going on leave and then coming back and so on, I was actually a bit behind in releasing episodes I had released before she was born. And when I scheduled this episode, I actually had no idea, but on the release of this episode, it's actually Cobi's boy, Sidney. It's his second birthday, so it is a really special episode. Happy birthday to you, Sidney. You have the strongest mom. She is a fighter. She knows what she wants and she goes for it. And I'm sure that you will take after her. Happiest of birthdays, Sidney. So in today's episode, you're going to hear from Cobi, who was not afraid to change providers, to change model of care, and to go from an OB who wasn't treating her right, who there was all these red flags being raised, but obviously you don't see it at the time, to then finding a midwife at about 20 weeks, halfway through her pregnancy. Cobi changed her care provider and she's never looked back. This story is absolutely incredible. The midwife actually did not make it, but that never stopped Cobi, who did not have a doubt that everything would be fine. And you will hear the incredible and very quick birth of her baby boy, Sidney. I will leave you to listen to it now. Hi, Cobi. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Do you want to start by introducing yourself? So telling the listeners your name, where you're living, and who is in your family.
I'm Cobi, and I'm currently living in Bundaberg, Queensland, and my little family is me, my partner Nathan, soon-to-be husband, and my 15-month-old son, Sidney.
Oh, beautiful. That's amazing. Oh, amazing. So I like to start usually most of my episodes by asking my guests the same question, which is, did you always want to be a mum?
Yes, ever since I was a little girl. My mum was a stay-at-home mum, and she never worked throughout my whole entire childhood, and I was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be a mum. So yes, ever since I was little, yes.
That's amazing. And see, the beauty of having a stay-at-home mum is you see it as like as a job, essentially. You don't see it as, oh, I'm unemployed and I'm not, participating in society and so on. You see it as a full-time role of raising your children. And I think that's a very unique perspective.
Yeah, I used to get frustrated like, oh, I just wish my mum would work, or I wish I could catch the bus to school. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so blessed that my mum was able to drop us off and pick us up every day. She
Yep.
took us to all our sport, all our extracurricular activities.
Yep.
We didn't have to be passed off to this person and that person. Like, she was there for everything. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I had recognized that sooner, that I'd be more appreciative, but I am very grateful now.
That's usually the case. When we become mums, we look back into our childhood and we go, oh, I was actually not realizing that my parents were going through this, or I didn't appreciate this that much, or I was a bit ungrateful there. And then we go, yeah, actually, like, that was pretty good.
Yeah, very lucky.
So let's get into the story of your little boy, Sidney. So did you plan to conceive him when you did?
No. When Nathan and I first met, we went off the pill basically straight away.
Yeah.
And nothing ever happened for, I don't know, 5 years or so. Nothing happened.
Wow.
And we weren't actively trying, but we weren't not trying.
Yeah.
But we just deemed it as it would never happen. So we just never. And I didn't know anything about my cycle or how to track it or anything like that I know now. So we were just doing whatever. And then one day I felt this funny feeling in my tummy, and I hadn't had my period for ages. My period was so irregular anyway, so I was like, oh, whatever. Nathan was at work, and his mother-in-law actually was like, oh, just do a pregnancy test. And I was like, have done multiple in the past, and they'd all come up negative. And I was like, oh, what's another one? And I did it, and it instantly came up positive. And I just, I was in shock. I was like, oh, this can't be right. And then I waited like 10 minutes and I did another one, and it was in the afternoon. So I was like, oh, it's not right, because it's not the morning. So it's not the strongest week. And then I just did so many, and Nathan was on night shift. So he was sleeping, and I was like, do I call and wake him up, or do I just wait? And so I just sent him a text with all these pregnancy tests. And he woke up and he just messaged me, and he's like, oh dear. And then I got a phone call, and that was that. And I was like, we were just like, okay. And Nathan didn't believe me for so long. He's like, gosh. I need to see a digital pregnancy test. So we did those, and he's like, oh, I just need to see the heartbeat on the screen. So when he saw the heartbeat, when we had our confirmation ultrasound, he was like, okay, I believe you now.
Oh, thank goodness.
I was like, I hope
so. And so he obviously was, he wanted to be a dad as well, right? So it didn't come as a huge shock, I guess. But at the same time, as you said, you were not trying but not preventing it, right?
Yeah, so if it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't. We were happy. Yep. We had made peace if it wasn't going to happen, but we would be happy if it did, and it did. And I think Nathan's biggest thing, he wanted to be set up. Like, we wanted to have a house, and we were just currently renting at the time. We did own a house, but it wasn't where we were living. So that was just our investment property, and we were just renting because we'd only just moved to Bundaberg. So we were just trying to find our feet before we went and purchased something. And then Nathan's like, oh my gosh, we need a house. So he come home and we bought a house that week he was home. And he was like, okay, I'm happy now, we have a house. I'm raising my son in the house. So it happened so quickly. It just snowballed. Found out I was pregnant, and then just everything happened after.
That's amazing. That is so amazing. It usually is the case, there's something that starts, as you said, the snowball effect, and you go, okay, now I need to do this. Okay, let's do it. That's amazing. You purchase a house within the week.
I think Nathan was like stressing a lot, but we got there.
Wow. I mean, did he know he had 9 months to find a property,
I know. I was like, we don't have to buy the first house we looked at, but this one ticked all of our boxes, what we were after.
That's
so
right.
and it was in our price range. So we were like, we'll just offer and see what happens. If it's meant to be, it'll be, and it happens. So yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I love those stories of, if it's meant to be, it happens. And that makes for the best stories for sure. Love it.
It does.
So how did you feel in your first trimester? So did you know much about, pregnancy, models of care, what to do and so on?
No, nothing, absolutely nothing. I was an early childhood educator, so I'd worked with children like my whole career, so to speak, and I had a very different view on how I would birth, raise my child compared to now. And I always remember my friend going, "Oh, you're so particular, Cobi. I think you would like an obstetrician because then you're like safe and you're in their hands." And I was like, oh, okay, whatever, just going with the flow. And my mum had 2 emergency cesareans, so she was like, I don't know anything about natural birth. Like, I've just birthed in a hospital. So I went with an obstetrician, and I was happy in the beginning. I didn't really know anything else, and I didn't really research into anything else, and I should have. And then I had a friend. I used to look after her children. I used to nanny them on the weekends, and she had home birthed all her children. And she's like, "Are you going through the midwifery program?" And I was like, "No, I'm with an obstetrician." And she's like, "Hold on, sit down." And I was like, "Okay." So she went through everything with me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So there's like other options here, because Nathan was like, "We're paying for the best of the best care for you and this baby," and I was like, "Yeah, of course I want the best for my baby," like not knowing that wasn't the best for me and my baby. But anyway, so she sat me down and talked me through it, and I was like, wow, okay. And then I was like stressing. I was like, what have I done? Like, I've made the wrong choice. And I cried so much to Nathan on the phone, and Nathan's just like, what do you want? And I was like, well, let's just have a meeting with the home birth midwife and let's just see what happens. So I was like frantically calling the midwives in my area. Mind you, there was only like 2. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I need a midwife. And she's like, calm down and we'll catch up. And I was like, but I need a midwife. Like, I was so stressed about this because I really wanted a home birth and I didn't want to miss out. And Nathan was like, well, you're not free birthing. And then my friend was like, it's so dangerous to do that. And then I was like, oh my God, I need a midwife. And so, we spoke to her, and Nathan's biggest concern was like, if something were to go wrong, like what can you do? So she spoke about that whole process and everything, and he was happy and I was happy. And he's like, oh, I really thought home birth was like we all sit in a circle and pat a drum and sing Kumbaya. And he's like, no, it's not. It's actually like normal. So it was really good that he jumped on board. But this wasn't until like halfway through my pregnancy that I swapped care.
Yeah, right.
So I was with our obstetrician up until then. And all along through the ob, when we went to his meetings, it was just negative and it was so bad. And I didn't see that until after. And it was a 5-second appointment and we were back out the door again, and you pay all this money for nothing. And I never really got a look in because Nathan smoked cigarettes. So he was just like, oh, you smoke cigarettes, that's so bad for your baby. And just always gave like Nathan a lecture on this. And Nathan's like, hang on, I'm paying you money to look after my baby here, not give me a lecture about smoking cigarettes. And then he pushed the COVID jab on me and all these other shots, and I didn't want any of that. And I was like, no. And he's like, you could die, your baby could die. And I was like, no. And then it was all like Hep B and vitamin K at birth. And I was like, I want to tell me more about it. And he never like really dove into the information or pointed me in the right direction. He was like, basically you need this or your baby's going to die. And then Nathan is covered in tattoos. And he goes, and because you're covered in tattoos, your baby's going to need Hep B. And Nathan was like, but my baby doesn't have tattoos. So why does he need Hep B? So it was just so negative, and then he kept telling me, oh, my baby's really big, your baby's really big, and planting that seed, like he's on the bigger percentile, da 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 da. And I was like, oh, and I wasn't showing. I didn't show until like the last trimester, and I was like, oh, this is weird that he's so big. And then the final thing that did it for me, he was like, when you deliver your baby, I will then pull on your placenta to deliver it. And I was like, no, done. I was like, Nathan, not happening. Not happening at all. I said, we're leaving. This isn't happening. And then, funnily enough, we were at a friend's house for dinner, and they had some other guests over, and these guests went through this specific obstetrician, and she said, yes, he pulled on my placenta after I delivered it, and I had hemorrhaging and bleeding, and he left some placenta in there. And I was like, and Nathan was like, thank God that we're not going back there anymore. And I was so grateful as well. And so, yeah, halfway through my pregnancy, we swapped over to home birth midwifery. And yeah, we had a pretty bad start, I guess. It was just so uninformed. And then with this new avenue, it really was a rabbit hole that opened to the life that we live now. So yeah, I'm grateful for my friend for showing me the other side, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing that you had this friend who was who was obviously concerned about about you not knowing your options, and who was really happy to show you the different options, because you don't know what you don't know as a first time mom. So you think, well, an obstetrician, at least you see him every time for the antenatal appointments, so therefore you've got continuity of care there. But, and in as much as obstetricians have a time and a place, if you're low risk and you don't want interventions, or you want the least amount of, interventions and scans and so on, then maybe an obstetrician is not the best go, because, as it sounds like, he was very much on the medical side and wanting to pretty much do every intervention that exists in the book, really. And yeah, and that's amazing that you found a private midwife at 20 weeks, because it can be really hard to find one. So, and you live in Bundaberg, so as you said, there wouldn't be a lot there as well. That's amazing that you managed to, and you got the courage to change, because sometimes you go, oh, it's too late, I'm halfway through, I'll just stick to it, that's fine. But if it doesn't feel right, then change, like, just don't question how far along you are, or whether it's the right decision, or whether the midwife's going to be booked out. Just do it. Just investigate any other options available, because usually there is another option, which, if you don't feel comfortable with your healthcare provider, how can you have a positive and empowering birth at this point? Any other option would probably be better, right?
Yeah, I agree so much. If you can change and want to change, do it. I don't think I would have the birth that I had if I had stayed with the obstetrician.
And one thing that really shocks me in this story is your obstetrician just creating this atmosphere of fear, right? Like, just almost fear talking you into getting the vaccination and getting intervention, and potentially, he was probably going to start talking about an induction because somehow your baby was on the bigger side, and so on. Just introducing, the fear and making you anxious, so that you just go down the path that basically he wants. That's a massive red flag, really.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't really see it at the time, because again, I didn't know what I know now. But looking back, there was many red flags. It was incredible. It was, I'll induce you at 39 weeks. He weighed me every appointment. I did a urine sample every appointment. Yeah, there was just so many, and I wish I hadn't have gone through him, but I guess it's a silver lining, because I went with him and I saw what they're like what they're truly like. And I've kind of done both sides in a sense, not as like birth with an obstetrician, but I've been to the appointments where, it wasn't the nicest feeling, and they basically are what people say. They're just cut you open and that's it. There's no care behind it. It's just tick, another baby done. We need to get this one in and out. Doesn't matter how it happens, let's go.
And so how was contrasting from, your appointments with your obstetrician, which were short and it wasn't pleasant. Nathan was being personally targeted because of who knows what. How was that in contrast to your appointments with your private midwife? That would have been day and night, right?
Yeah, so completely different. Our midwife would be at our house for 1 to 2 hours. We'd have coffee and tea and morning tea. It was a chat about everything, about pregnancy, about birth, about breastfeeding, about mothering. It was just about everything. It wasn't just in and out. And we personally had a really great relationship with our midwife that's turned into a friendship. That she came to my son's first birthday after the care of like 6 weeks with her that had finished. She still came over as a friend to catch up and see us, and if I needed anything outside of that care time, I would message her, I would call her, she would help me, send me recommendations. So yeah, our relationship turned to a friendship and it was so beautiful.
Oh, that is amazing to hear. Private midwives and midwives in general are usually, they're just so dedicated to women, and private midwives are known to just be going above and beyond and very much beyond, what they're actually offering, and just they just care so much. They want the best for the woman, for the baby, for the couple, and they are just there to really, help you, guide you to the best decisions, to help you to have the birth that you want, and just to be obviously safe and healthy for everyone. It's amazing.
Yeah, she was beautiful. She's since moved, so I haven't seen her, but yeah, I'm so grateful.
Oh,
so grateful.
Oh, amazing. And so how did you prepare for this birth? So obviously your private midwife was a huge part of this, preparation for birth, breastfeeding, parenting. Did you do any other education, reading books, podcasts, courses, something along those lines?
I never listened to any podcast. I read all the books. I never attended any courses. I just read Ina May Gaskin and I was like, my mind is blown. I want to go to America and birth my baby with Ina May Gaskin. This is all I want to do. And honestly, if something like that was in Australia, it'd be amazing. But yeah, I just read so many books about natural parenting, gentle parenting, birthing natural. I read a hypnobirthing book. I didn't fully surrender to it. I just took some breathing exercises from it. I know people think hypnobirthing is the bee's knees, but it personally wasn't for me. I just took what I resonated with and moved on from there. But I just did a lot of work mentally and spiritually to prepare for this, because I was like, you can't just rock up to birth and just expect to birth. Like, that's my biggest thing. People are like, oh my gosh, you had a home birth. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't just rock up and do it. Like, I worked so hard for this. So yeah, I just did that, read books, and I followed a lot of people on Instagram, read a lot of research papers and watched mini videos, and they just made me cry every time. And I was like, I can't wait for this. And the fact that it was showing how real and raw it was, one person just like breathing through the contractions and then another just roaring through it. It's just like, this is so normal. Like, this is how birth should be.
Exactly. Yeah, the most beautiful home birth and free birth stories on YouTube are the ones where there's no music, so you can actually hear what's happening. And sometimes it's, silence. There isn't much sound being made, but other times you can really hear the woman just, going within herself and really using those strategies, whatever they are, to help her through and to really, really open up and surrender to the surges. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And I think you can find home birth videos of pretty much the start all the way to the baby being born, so you can have you can watch it all. Or some are obviously a bit more, shortened, and yeah, you just see different stages. But it is a great education too, because when you don't know what you're in for, first time mom, and you've never birthed, it can be quite hard sometimes to visualize, well, what does it look like? Could I what could I feel like? What is normal? I guess, what can I expect? And that's where a private midwife is amazing, because they will take you through, the different stages and what could happen, what it could look like. Obviously, reassuring you that making sounds is more than normal. Obviously, we shouldn't be silenced in labor, right? There's no, you can't tell a woman to be quiet when she's laboring. So making noises or moaning or roaring or whatever that deep sound she needs to make, it will come out anyway. Even if we try not to, it would come out.
Yes, I agree. I roared and roared and roared. And I remember at one stage, Nathan got up and shut the bathroom window because he was like, neighbours, Cobi. I just started laughing. I thought it was so funny.
Oh, that is hilarious, actually. But something you said, it really makes sense. You said when you read books and so on, you just took what resonated with you, and for you, hypnobirthing, to its, I guess, full extent, wasn't exactly what resonated, and that's totally fine. It doesn't, just because you want to do hypnobirthing, for example, doesn't mean you have to use every single one of those strategies and listen to all the meditations and resonate with every single affirmation and so on. You can just take little bits or change the breathing exercise to something that makes more sense to you, because at the end of the day, when you're laboring, it doesn't matter whether you're doing it right, so to speak, according to the book or not. It's about helping you to stay grounded, to stay present and really surrender.
Yeah, well, that was my biggest thing, was I didn't want to stress myself out and be like, I need to know all of these different types of things. I just read what I wanted to read, and at the end of the day, I said, I surrender to my body. Like, my body's going to tell me what needs to be done. And I did. I just followed my body and my baby, and together we worked so perfectly, and it all worked out the way it was supposed to.
Amazing. And so something we haven't mentioned is, so Nathan is, I think at the time he was a drive-out worker.
Yeah.
How was that going to look like in terms of you birthing? Did he have to take a certain number of weeks, off ahead of the birth so that he wouldn't be away?
So it worked out that he was home when Sidney hit, when I was 40 weeks. So he was home that week. And we had a little plan in place. He was only 6 hours away. So if anything had started, he would just get in the car and come straight away. But for some reason, I'm so
6 hours.
So planned out. Yes. I'm so planned out and meticulous. I was like, this baby's not going to come. Like, Nathan needs to finish his work, then he's going to go on maternity leave, and then the baby's going to come. And that's the way it happened anyway. But I was so set on that happening. I was like, it can't happen any other way. Like, it has to happen this way. He was home when I was roughly 40 weeks, and he was home for a week. So it was just a week of us, and then Sidney came when I was 41 weeks.
Beautiful.
So it worked out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, and I think, as women, we just sometimes it's almost like we just, we know, obviously you knew that Nathan was away until you were 40 weeks, and I think somehow subconsciously I don't know, maybe I feel like it not prevents you, but it's like you're telling yourself, oh, I'm not ready. Your brain is saying to your body, we're not ready just yet. And then when Nathan got home, it's like, okay, Nathan's home, I've got time to relax. And then Sidney arrived. There you go. Amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened.
So
I just surrendered.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love those stories. So take us through the days and the day of Sydney's birth. What was it like? Did you wake up in labor, or did it happen through the day?
Well, the days leading up, I was the best pregnant person ever. I had no symptoms, I wasn't sick, nothing was sore. I was just
Wow.
pregnant with this belly, and I was
Yep.
like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to, have morning sickness, or I'm supposed to be really tired, or I did get tired. I used to nap every day. But everything was just so easy and it just flowed so well. And then I came to a point where I was like, when is this going to happen? Like, it just feels like it's going on forever and ever. And Nathan was like, it'll
Yeah.
happen when it happens. And I was just like, oh, come on. And then I kind of was just like, whatever. He's going to come when he comes. I woke
Mm.
up on the Friday morning, and well, the night before, Nathan and I were out the backyard playing with the dogs, running around. And I was like, oh, I wonder if me running is going to put me into labor. And I went to bed and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
nothing. So we'll wake up tomorrow and see what happens. And then I woke up on the Friday and I had this sensation that I'd never had before. And I was like, oh, this is weird. It wasn't painful. It wasn't strong. It was just this light sensation. And I was like, oh, okay, well, Deb, our midwife, is coming today at lunchtime. So I'll just ask her. I'll be like, what is this supposed to be?
Yeah.
Like, describe it to her. And I did, and she kind of felt my belly, and she was like, yeah, you could be in labor. And I had a couple of these in the morning, but nothing like my waters broke and my contractions started, nothing like that. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay. She said, but as a first-time mum, though, this could go on for days, a week, like, and I was like, oh, okay, no worries. So I called my parents and I said, oh, the midwife thinks I'm in labor, but again, this could go on for days. Did you guys want to come over this afternoon? And Dad was like, okay, I'll finish work and come round. And so they got ready, came over. I think they arrived about 3. Deb's appointment was at 11. She left around lunchtime. I had some lunch. And then the contractions kind of just started from when Mum and Dad got there, and they were like 5 to 3 minutes apart. And that was it. There was no big build up. There probably was. I wasn't feeling it. And yeah, it just happened. And we were out the back. My dad did like a burning smoking ceremony for me. We were kind of like hanging around the shed, and I would like walk away and have a breather and like breathe through my contractions. And my mum's like giggling at me, like, as if you're just standing there like breathing through these, Cobi. And because again, she had 2 cesareans, and she's like, I have no idea what any of this feels like. So this is like amazing to watch this. And so it came to about 5 o'clock, and I was like, okay, like they were getting like quite intense. I was like, I'm going to go and have a shower. And I went and had a shower. My mum started cleaning my bedroom, cleaning the fans, pulling the bed out, vacuuming. I was like, okay, you do you. And then she sat down at the table with me and she braided my hair. It was something that I wanted to have done. So it was just always on my to-do list. I was like, I want to have my hair braided for labor. It's just, I don't know, it's just something.
Beautiful.
And anyways, we did that, and it was like our little time to bond, I guess. And she kept stuffing up one side, and I kept having these really intense surges. And she's like, do I need to stop? Like, can I keep going? She was so worried. And I was like, no, it's okay. Like, just let me have a breather. Anyway, she finished doing my hair, and I just kept walking around my birth space. Nathan was finishing, like, getting a few things ready. We had all the lights off. We have a cinema room, so that was really good for me to like walk in, and like it's pitch black, and I'd just go in there with each surge and walk around and just breathe. And our midwife called about 7, and I had a massive surge, and I was just breathing through them. Like, they really weren't bothering me that bad. And she's like, oh, you sound fine. I'll just finish my cuppa and come. And I was like, okay. Like, I had no idea how intense they were, really. She's like, yeah, no, normally I can tell on the phone if like you're roaring, then things are happening, but you seemed quite content. So I just was like, no worries. And I remember her saying, if you get in water, they're either going to speed up or slow down. So I said to Nathan, okay, I'll get in the shower. If they speed up, we'll tell Deb to come as fast as she can. And if they slow down, we'll just still come, but there's no rush. I went to hop in the shower and I transitioned. I had this massive surge. I wanted to throw up. I sat on the toilet and I was like, Nathan, I need a bucket. I'm going to be sick. And Nathan went and got me this bucket, but it was a brand new bucket that I had got for the home birth, which was on the checklist. And I was like, not that bucket. It's clean. And he's like, what bucket do you want me to use? And I was like, I don't know. And then the feeling of nausea passed. And I got undressed and I had another huge surge and I was like, yep, I've just transitioned. And I got in the shower and I got down on my hands and knees and I said to Nathan, I need a hot flannel to put on my tummy. So he ran under the hot water in the tap and I was like, this isn't hot enough. I was like, because we had an urn for the birth pool to keep the water warm. I said, put it under the urn, like it needs to be boiling. And he's like looking at me and I was like, just do it, please. And he come back in and I put it on my tummy and it was the most relief I'd felt. It was so nice. I was like, but I couldn't hold it on there. Like couldn't balance myself to hold it and it just kept falling off and the surges were just coming too quickly. I was like, throw the flannel out. We don't need this. And he was just standing there kind of watching me and holding space. And then I was like, I'm going to put my hand into my vagina and I'm going to see what's going on. One, out of curiosity. Two, I don't really know what I was looking for, but I was like, I'll just have a feel and see what's happening. And I put my hand up there and I could feel Sidney's head and I was obviously dilated, I don't know how much, and I was just like, Nathan, he's coming. And Nathan's like just looking at me in shock, like, the midwife's not here. What am I supposed to do? And my dad was sitting down at the table eating his spaghetti for dinner, and I was like, get Dad. And he looked at me and I just like screamed at him. I was like, get Dad. And so he went and got Dad. And Dad came in and Dad just knelt down next to the shower and I just put my hand out to Dad and I just like squeezed it and I did not let go. And Nathan was just standing there and I said, Nathan, like I need some water. So he went and got me some water and in between each surge I just had a sip of water and I couldn't talk and I was going like this to Nathan like for water and then like I would pull my head back and stop and he just thought it was the funniest thing ever. So it was fun. Labour was fun. We laughed a lot and I think he was stressed a bit. So his way was making jokes to cope with it. Yeah, I just lent out for touch by my dad and Nathan just supported me emotionally and I just roared. And like you said before, if I tried not to, it was coming out no matter what I did. And then that's when I remember Nathan got up to shut the bathroom window and I just laughed again because I was like, oh, I'm being loud, but I did not care at all. And he was coming and Nathan was on the phone to Deb and Deb was telling Nathan what to do. And then at one point Nathan's like, I can't see what's happening. And I was like, I tried to kind of turn around in the shower to like see if that would help. And I was like, Nathan, I'm not moving. I'm staying here. I can't move. This is it. Anyways, I was just pushing with my body. Sidney was just coming and I remember his head had crowned and I felt the burning ring of fire and I was like, oh my God. And Nathan's like, you can tell he's freaking out and my dad is just so calm and he's like, it's okay. And Nathan's like, they didn't speak the whole time. Nathan cracked a joke here and there, but other than that, like not a word was spoken. When Sidney's head was crowned, nothing was said. And then Nathan was like, okay, Cobi, we need another good push. And I was just like, who are you to think you're some doctor telling me to push? And Dad was like, looked at Nathan and looked at me and was like, it's okay. Like, he's going to come. It's okay. Just let her have a breather. His head had come out and Nathan was like just watching, and he was just in shock. And then obviously the rest of his body come out, and I was just that exhausted that I just went to sit down. And Nathan's like, hang on. And because Nathan had him underneath me, I was about to like not sit on him, but Nathan's like, I need to get him out from underneath you. So he got him out, and then he was like holding him, and I'd sat down, and then he put him on my chest, and Nathan's like, he's not crying. And I was like, it's okay, like he's fine. Like, and then he started to let out a little cry, and you could see dad just looked at me and was like, started crying, and was like, well done, Cob. And Nathan was like, you could see him have tears in his eyes, and he's just like, oh my God. And then he's freaking out again because the midwife still isn't there. And I was like, it's okay. And then my dad went and got my mum, because my mum doesn't like blood or anything like that, so she wasn't in a bathroom. And so dad went out and got mum and said, oh, you have a grandson. And mum came in, and I was like, oh, I want to move from the shower. And mum's like, no, just stay there until Deb comes. And Deb was only a couple minutes away. So, yeah, we got wrapped up in towels and stayed there. And then Deb walked in, and it was just like this angelic person had just come in, and it was just like, oh, you're here. And she's like, oh, you got a baby. And I was like, yeah, it's just that's how it happened.
That's amazing. You birthed Sidney at home, not like the plan was, but I mean, the only thing different was, well, your midwife didn't make it, but that's amazing. What's really, really amazing is, so obviously your parents were at your house, but you, I feel like usually, when we're, women, we would call our mother to, be there for the birth and help us, because, well, even though your mum's done, she's had 2 emergency cesareans, she's obviously birthed 2 babies, but you called your dad. There must be such a strong bond between you and your dad that you wanted him in your birth space, right?
Yeah, we have a very special bond, I guess. I don't know, ever since we were little, mum has never been able to deal with blood. So anything like that, dad's just been the calm, the content one, the first aider of the family. He's the peacekeeper, he's the dove, he's just very placid and very calm. And my mum is a bit like, so I didn't want that energy in my birth. So
that's right.
They respected that. And so, I called dad in, and I knew I knew he would just hold space physically, emotionally. He was just going to be there, and he did. And it was so beautiful. And there's like 3 generations, grandfather, father, and son. Like, it was just, it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Oh, that's amazing. And it really sounds like your dad was the anchor for you, obviously, but mostly for Nathan, who, as you said, was freaking out. And probably, mostly because Deb wasn't there, and the whole plan was around, Deb was meant to be there at your birth. And obviously when things don't go to plan, us as women birthing, we usually, we're like, well, throw the plan out the window. That's how it is. Usually dads have a harder time understanding that concept, and they kind of go, but that wasn't the plan.
Yeah, he never wanted, he's like, Cobi, I don't want to look down that end. And I was like, Nathan, I don't care. I said, all I want out of you when I give birth is to be there and hold space for me emotionally. If I need to hold you, if I need to squeeze you, I just need you to be there. I don't care what you do, I just need you to be there. And he was like, okay, no worries, thinking like, this is the perfect little plan. The midwife is going to be there. All I have to do is hold her hand. And then he ended up doing all of it, seeing all of it. And he was just like, oh my gosh. And I said to him, like with the weeks leading up to the birth, I was like, here, like, let's watch a video together, or you should read this. And I would send him stuff. And he was invested, but he was, I think, always in the back of his mind, like, why do I need to do this? The midwife is going to be there. So it's funny. Mm-hmm. So now whenever I say, can you read this, or can you do this? And he's like, fine. And he does it because he's like, he doesn't want to get caught out again.
Yeah, that's right. So with your midwife, had you ever discussed what to do in case she wasn't there for your birth? or was that never discussed actually?
No, we did, because Nathan was away. I said, what happens if you don't make it? Because she was an hour away from me, and then Nathan being away at work. I was like, what are my options? What could happen? What do I need to do? And had my parents come to that appointment as well, because I was like, well, you're just here. If Nathan's not here, like, I need backup, essentially. Like, I need someone with me. So my parents were there, and we discussed it all, and she just walked me through everything. And at the end of the day, again, like, I just had to trust my body and my baby. I once did not freak out. I was not like, oh my gosh, I need drugs. Oh my gosh, the midwife isn't here. Oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like, not once did I think any of that. I was like, I'm having a baby. I'm having it now. And this is what's happening. Like, nothing negative crossed my mind. I was like, I just got to get in. This is just happening. I've just got to do it. Got no option now.
That's amazing. You're a first-time mom. You've never birthed, and obviously you've educated yourself, like, to, the full extent of it. And you're the definition of surrendering to the birth, really. You just went, well, it's happening. It's happening now. And I'm just going to trust my body. I'm going to trust my baby, and I'm going to do it. There's no questioning it. That is amazing. Wow.
Yeah, it was intense, but not once did I go, something wrong's going to happen, or what if something's not right, or anything. Nothing. It was just like, he's coming, and my healthy baby he's going to be born. That's it. So I don't know, just nothing negative crossed my mind, and we just worked together, and it happened.
That's amazing. So was Sidney a big baby?
Well, again, I've never given birth, so I didn't know. And when I had him, I didn't know. And then the midwife came, and I obviously still had him for a while. And then it came to the point where she, like, checked him and did the weight and stuff like that. And she goes, whoa, what size do you reckon he is? And I was like, is he a big baby? And she goes, yeah, what are your guesses? And I was like, I don't know, 8 pound? She's like, 9 pounds for 4.2 kilos or something. And I was like, wow. And she's like, yeah, you did that. I was like, yeah, I did.
Wow.
And he was
That's
really
amazing.
long too. Yeah, he was 56 centimeters long as well. So he wasn't short.
Wow. You've done so well. That's amazing. Good on you, Cobi. Good on you.
Thank you. I'm pretty proud of myself. A lot of people questioned and doubted our choice. And I said, at the end of the day, I'm birthing, not you. And
exactly.
A lot of people still question me, like, oh, I could never do that. Or you're lucky your baby's alive. Or, what if something happened? And I was like, well, you already can't have a home birth because you have a negative mindset. And you've already put that out to the universe. I said, you can't do that. I said, our bodies, we're built for this. We're made for this. And I do believe modern medicine and hospitals and doctors have a time and a place, and there are women that need them. But if you are a healthy female with no issues, then there is no reason for you to go and birth in a hospital. That's my biggest belief.
That's right. That's right. And for some women, their safe space is the hospital. And that's where they should birth, even if they're healthy, or, they've got some risks, whatever. Because it's about, at the end of the day, it's about what you align with. And if, the hospital is your safe space, then, go for it. But if, just like you didn't align with the obstetrician, you didn't really align with this whole, medicalized system, then a home birth was perfect. For you, even more to it, it's like, well, actually, I'm not waiting. Well, it's not you, it's the baby. The baby's not waiting for anyone. Well, I can do it regardless. And it's amazing, because if you had continued with your obstetrician-led care, it would have been detected that Sidney, was a big baby. And, I don't like to say big baby, but, with inverted commas there. And there probably would have been a talk about, an induction because the baby's big and so on. You went to 41 weeks, you birthed a 4.2 kilo baby on your own, unassisted, no intervention, obviously no shoulder dystocia, no problem. And you were fine, and the baby was fine. And it really goes to show that if we stop labeling women, and we stop going, oh, a 4 kilo baby, oh my God, red flag, and we actually let the woman birth and dilate and move during labor and be active and do what she feels she needs to do, then she can birth a 4+ kilo baby without any issues.
I agree. I just wish more people, and especially me at the start of my journey, I wish home birth, I wish the alternative side of things was known. And I wish there was, like, when you go to the hospital, have you researched all your options? Like, did you know that you can do all of this before coming here? I just wish it was more normalized for women to be able to make an informed decision on what is best for them, rather than just succumbing to the medical way.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the problem, is we're not told our options. So when you go to your GP because you're pregnant and you go, okay, well, I'm pregnant, I'll go to my GP to get, the referral started, or to get the blood test and so on, you're being guided towards a hospital birth straight away. You're not being guided to a home birth. You're probably not being told about a potential referral to a private midwife. That's not happening. And I've heard of women that have to go through however many GPs to find one that will provide a referral for a private midwife. And that is unacceptable in today's society, that we have to fight to get a referral for a private midwife because we want to have the birth that we want.
Yeah, well, I didn't know you needed a referral either. So I called my obstetrician one day and I said, I'm not coming back. I'm doing a home birth, and I found a private midwife. And they were like, hang on, you can't do that. You need a referral. And I was like, yeah, but you can just write the letter and send it to my midwife. And they were not happy about it. I had to get my midwife to contact them, and they begrudgingly wrote a letter, but apparently my midwife says that they were not very nice about it. Conversing about it when my midwife contacted them, they were not happy at all.
Yep.
And I was like, wow. Oh, well, at the end of the day, that's their loss, really, isn't it? They're probably thinking about all the dollars that are going down the drain that they don't get to have.
Yep. Thank you. I was literally about to say that. That is probably what it is. And it really bugs me when women have to fight so hard to get something that they're entitled to, because every woman is entitled to a home birth. If they want to go through that pathway and they want to get a referral, then it shouldn't be I don't really want to do a referral to a private midwife because I don't believe in home birth. We know that a private midwife will screen the woman and they will check that, obviously, it's, I guess, safe in terms of their insurance, because private midwives hold insurance, and they, even though they want to help probably everyone, they probably can't, and they still have to obey to extremely strict guidelines, and they still have to check boxes, but they are a lot more flexible in the way they do it, and they're a lot more, let's say, lenient than the system is. And it's unacceptable that any health professional is basically denying a woman a referral for that type of service. It shouldn't be that way, but it is.
Yeah, it's sad. It is really sad, but
yeah,
I guess I hope that I can inspire women to, and like my friends in my area know that they've got options now. So that's my biggest thing, because they're also inspired by me and they're like, this is what I want to do. And I was like, you can do it. Like, stand up for yourself. If that's what you want, do it.
Exactly. If that's what you want, then do it. If you want to change care at any point, do it. If you want to explore a different pathway, do it. It's always the woman's decision, and you can always say no to anything. You can say no to an obstetrician, you can say no to an intervention, you can say no to a scan, you can say no to your placenta being pulled in birth, you can say no to anything. They cannot do anything to you unless you say yes, or unless you sign something. And even when you sign a consent form, you can take that consent away at any point without any questions being asked, without justification. I try to say that every time I can in a podcast, because you can say no, you can take your consent away, you can question, the power is yours. Don't let the medical system take it. Don't let them make decisions for you. Ask the questions. make the decision, tell them how it's going to be. That's how it should be.
Yeah, I 100% agree. No is a full sentence.
Definitely is. So tell me, how was parenting, early parenting with Sidney? So Sidney's born, he's in your arms, Nathan's in awe of everything, even though he was in a bit of a shock before. How was the early parenting? How was that stage for you guys?
It was hard, but it was good. It was so surreal.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's just so much happening.
Yeah.
It's just indescribable, really, because you are just on a wave of emotions. Your body's just expelled this baby. So it's like, what's happening? I remember I cried so much after, and Nathan was like freaking out again. And I was like, no, it's okay. And he's just like, are you sure? I was like, yes, it's just my hormones. But we were such a good team. He helped me so much. He did everything for me. I was with Sidney and I just fed Sidney and I had a shower and I ate. And he did everything else. He would bring Sidney if we were in bed and I wanted to walk to the lounge. He would carry Sidney for me. He would get all my water bottles. He would get everything that we needed. He would always make sure breakfast, lunch and dinner was right in front of me. He did everything. Sidney was in cloth nappies from the moment he was born. So Nathan,
nice,
as well as learning to be a dad, was doing washing every day, doing cloth nappies.
Wow.
My parents came over as well and helped a lot. But yeah, Nathan did everything. I was just with Sidney and it was just the best. And then when he left after 3 weeks of being home, he went back to work. I was like, oh, now I have to do all of this. And I was so sad because I was just so happy in my little bubble just being with Sidney. But yeah, that's when I guess parenting, being a stay-at-home mum, running the house, all of that kind of came. And yeah, I did have my mum. She came and cleaned the house once a week, every week for us, come over for dinner or, I did still have that support system, but it wasn't near as much as what Nathan was doing. But then when he'd come home again, he'd pick up and do everything for me, which was really lovely. Yeah, he was the best. And I wish every mum had that.
Everyone needs a Nathan in their life. That's amazing.
They do. He's the best.
Oh, that's amazing. It must be really hard though when, Nathan's now a fly-out worker, and when he's away, like he's away for weeks, he's not just away from 9 a.m. until, 5 p.m. and then he comes home at 9 and so on. You're alone. I know you've got your parents, but you're basically, you're solo parenting pretty much for weeks at a time. That's extremely hard. It is so incredibly difficult, and I don't know how you do it. So I would love for you to enlighten me about what it's like to be solo parenting for, I think, is it 4 or 5 weeks at a time?
Yes, so it's basically 4 weeks. So it originally, all of Sydney's first year he was away for 1 week and home for 1 week. And then he wanted to go and work overseas. And I was like, we had so many back and forth conversations about it. But his dream was to always work overseas. And my dream has been to be a stay-at-home mum. And together, I guess we're both supporting each other's dreams. I'm at home looking after the house whilst he can go and work away. And I'm home because he is working away, earning a decent wage that allows me to do that. So I just look at it that way, like we're supporting each other's dreams. But yes, it's so hard being a solo parent for a month at a time. It's lonely, like it can get really lonely. Even though you've got this little person with you, it's still, you don't have that other presence at home. Like there's no, when I put Sydney to bed at night time, I would always come out and Nathan and I will like watch some TV, or if we needed to do some extra jobs, we'd always do them together. And then now when Nathan's away and I put Sidney to bed, I come out and the house is dark and it's quiet and it's just like, oh, what am I doing now? But in saying that, it's okay. Like, we have our own little routine, and we just get up and we just do us, and we try and not keep busy. Like, I don't like to be busy all the time, but every few days we'll go and we'll have a play date, or we'll go to the park, and we'll come to my parents for dinner. So we'll do things continuously, but I do like to make sure that we're both still rested and we're not like keeping ourselves that busy and occupied that we get so run down. So I guess there's a bit of a balance there.
That's right.
But it's good. We're able to catch up and see all like our little friends and stuff like that. And yeah, we just do it. You just do it. You've got no choice really. You just have to do it, and you get up every day, and you just know that I'm doing this. I'm doing this for our family. I'm doing this for Sidney. We just get up and do it.
Wow, that's amazing. And we know that solo parents they're amazing at that, because as you said, they just do it. You just do it because, well, you have to. That's how your family works. That's the dynamics there, and that's how it is. And so yeah, you just do it. But I mean, absolute awe of it, because, well, it's like until you're living it, it just seems incredibly hard, difficult, near impossible, because, well, you haven't got anyone, when, I don't know, you're having a moment, you just, the baby's been crying for hours and you're like, I'm not having a good day. I just need to, have 5 minutes to myself. Well, you can't have that 5 minutes to yourself. I mean, potentially you can, because you've got parents, family, friends, but, it's like, and, like, you can't go to the toilet on your own. You can't shower on your own. Yeah, it's, wow, I'm in awe of you. It's amazing. You're doing an amazing job. Go, Cobi.
Thank you. Yeah, I take my hat off to single parents who do this all the time. It is hard. And when you have had a really bad day, or there's always something grateful to be for in each day though. But yeah, when you're at your wit's end and you just want to have 5 minutes, it's just really hard. But I don't know, you just breathe and you just do it, and it's just like, okay, sometimes I count the hours until bedtime. I'm like, right, 2 more hours to go and I can have 5 minutes by myself. That little thing is my thing. It's just like, if we've had a bad day, well, he goes to bed at 7 o'clock. I can have an hour where I can just switch off and I can just do what I want, and I just don't have that responsibility as such. Like, he's asleep, I can just have 5 seconds. So that's one thing that gets me through. And I do count the days until Nathan comes home.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so do you find when Nathan's home, you have a different routine, obviously, because as you said, when he's away, you do, well, you and Sidney routine. But then when Nathan's home, I'm guessing that routine is totally different, right? So you kind of have two routines, is that right?
In a sense, yes and no. We try and keep Sidney to like his own rhythm, whether Nathan's home or not. But it does change, like with Nathan being home, but not as drastically as you would think. He does get so excited when Dad's home. So the first day that Nathan comes home, like, everything just gets thrown out the window, because Sidney is just so like, he's just overstimulated. He's just like, what are you doing here? Like, you haven't been here for how many days and now you're here? But no, we try and keep it the same, and it is pretty consistent. So, but other things can be difficult, like when Nathan comes home and Sidney doesn't want to sleep because Nathan's home, or we like go out and do things. But all in all, the routine is pretty much the same, I guess.
Oh, good. Well, see, that's good to hear, because as you said, Sidney, well, he needs something that makes sense to him, something structured. So, it's good if he can keep it, obviously, with the odd, Dad's home and, everyone's excited, obviously. And so obviously that day is a bit of a write-off. But outside of that, wow, it's amazing. And so how does Sidney go with Nathan going? Does he get really sad? Does he, I know he's 15 months old, he probably doesn't understand Dad's coming back, but not today. How does that go?
He has no idea. And I think because this has happened from his birth, that Dad's just been in and out, that it's like, oh, this person's here and this person's gone. Like, it's not a big deal to him. But as he's getting more older, he's getting more aware. And so our little routine when Nathan is away is that we have dinner and we have a bath, and then he'll hop in the shower with me, and then we go to his bedroom and we put our jammies on and we read a book, and Nathan normally calls. So we have a FaceTime with Nathan and then he goes to bed. In the past few nights, Nathan hasn't called as early as he normally does, and Sidney has spotted my phone in the room and there's spins like screaming at me because Nathan's not on the phone, and he doesn't, so he knows that Nathan's on the phone, but he doesn't have that comprehension to be like, oh, not yet, like he's going to call. So that's just broken my heart the past 2 nights, and he's so upset because Nathan's not able to call us yet. So hopefully he, as he gets older, he has more of the understanding that he will call soon, but yeah, poor darling.
Oh, it's doing so well, and as you said, because it's what he's known his whole life, it probably makes sense to him that he's normal. But yeah, kids, they're just so cute, because when something doesn't, they're used to something and it doesn't go according to that plan, and at that age they just can't understand that dad's going to call soon but not now. Oh, it's so hard.
It is, but it's so sweet to see their little bond that they have, and he like waves hello and he'll like blow a kiss, and it's so sweet to watch that they do have such a bond. And when Nathan comes home, his face is in shock because he's like, what are you doing? Like, you're actually here and you're not on a phone. But it's special. They still have a close bond, so it is nice.
Of course. And speaking of close bond, does Sidney have a really close bond with his grandpa who was there at his birth?
Yes, they have a very close bond, and they have done ever since they were little. Him and his Poppy are very, very close. He started to branch out and like other people too, but Poppy is still his favourite person.
No. After Mum, obviously.
After Mum, yes. Biggest mummy's boy. Yeah. Through and through. And then Poppy. And then Dad.
Okay. Okay, that's a good order. If it works. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I guess we'll finish up on this. Thank you so much for making time today to have a chat with me and, making it work, because I know Nathan's away and so on. So thank you so much. I've loved your story. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing, mind-blowing, and I know you will inspire women to, follow their path, whatever that looks like, have a direction they need to take. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me, and I hope that my story can inspire a first-time mum out there, that she is able to have these choices, that she can do it, that she can swap care, that she can do anything that she wants to. She is built for this.
Yeah, definitely. We're made for birth, and we can all do it, whatever way we do it. Yeah,
that's it. Exactly. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to get notified of when a new episode comes out, please subscribe to this show on your podcast listening platform. Also, I would really appreciate it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcast or share this episode so that other moms can find it. If you would like to tell your own pregnancy, birth, or parenting story, please head to the show notes and you will find a form there to get in touch with me. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I will be with you again next week for a new episode.